With Frontier stocks dropping harder than Odyssey got dropped by its developers, one of all-time best space sims, Elite Dangerous, is not doing too well today. With the parent company in trouble, player numbers being at a constant low, is there still a hope for the game? Well, surprisingly it might. With the recent Thargoid narrative sparking hope and renewal, it genuinely brought back some interest in one of the space sim greats. But whether the developers will follow up on this success, well, that we are here to find out. Want a cool looking t-shirt, a sticker or even a mug? Well, check out my merch store, link for that down below. Like I mentioned in my Is It Worth It video, Elite core experience is still remaining the same good thing that it has been. Genuinely immersive and evocative, there is no doubt about that. However, that in turn also brings us to the question, rather than is Elite dying, but instead, how dead is it? Now let's be frank, the core experience is the key for Elite Dangerous to work as a fantastic sandbox for all the grown man-babies to play in. But much like any neighborhood sandbox, the more time moves on, the more dog shit and weeds you find in it, when you don't add new sand or repair the box itself. For years and years, Elite has survived on the basic gameplay that was introduced in 2014, and it's a testament of how good the mechanics were. But without a meaningful quality of life and rebalancing, it only highlights one simple word: stagnation. And this is the downfall of Elite in full, and no amount of new features to the stinky dog toilet that once was a decent sandbox will fix it. But before we delve into that, what even is game dev? How do you quantify it? I mean, everyone has their own perspective on this, right? How do you check the pulse of a game to determine, yes, this piece of shit horse is dead, time to smack it? Well, if you wanted more big updates akin to expansions like Odyssey or Horizons, well, I'm sorry to say that this is it. After the mega failure, rivaling Goatsy, Odyssey is the last sad whimpering fart of a noise that Elite produces. If you wanted updates, then, well, you better be on PC, and even then, you better like the Odyssey UI and Planet Tech, cause old Horizons version, and console version especially, are functionally in a vegetative state. The game is, well, dead for these folks. But hey, if you just wanted a game to simply function, and nothing more, well, good for you. Do not have many standards. The game will be available for a good few years for sure, if not a decade, if you send Frontier more of your money in form of microtransactions. Overall, it's normal for games to functionally die in time, even the best of live service games. Unless of course there's money rolling in, the game will die and wither. Well, except for TF2, and even then it has dedicated servers and offline modes and all that good stuff. But still, it's just a testament of how good the game is, that it's still alive. Now let's face it, Elite is celebrating 9 years this year. Most live service games barely manage 2 or hell 4 of them, if they're lucky. So one way or other, Elite is bound to settle down in the coffin sooner or later. Still, it's rare to see how one massive misstep can ruin very decent, if not good, premise. After Odyssey was dumped like a carcass of a dead hooker onto a porch of its family, just to meet Frontier Development's fiscal end-of-year spreadsheets, rather than being delayed more to finish development properly, it only got worse. And yes, if you didn't know, Odyssey was released at the end of May when Frontier concludes its fiscal end-of-year, and this is a fact. Combine this with the management decision to release a very unfinished product with a development team who stagnates harder than the boomer logic, one's great idea of space legs and depth it would give to the whole game was thoroughly fucked. And instead of struggling to compete with Star Citizen on a level playing field in terms of features, Elite Dangerous was struggling to rub 2 brain cells together. After the horrific release and backlash, at least you'd expect a greedy company led by the fucking idiots to still commit to developing Odyssey and release it on consoles for the last big paycheck, if nothing else. But I'm guessing the development team was either too inexperienced, incompetent, or otherwise purely unable to wrangle the Cobra engine that they simply could not release Odyssey on old-gen consoles, despite their idiotic management pushing hard, clearly, for that last paycheck. And so, about 9 months later after the release, the difficult decision was made to cut the consoles off like a bad tumor. And though I play up the whole PC Master Race thing and the consolite is bad, blah blah blah, I absolutely hate to see that, we all are gamers and some of us just simply get shafted because, hey, the company could not give a fuck. It genuinely is a shit situation. And on consoles, the game is basically now in vegetative state, similarly to what Legacy mode is on PC. No real updates, just maintenance, with a separate game save. So for these players, unless you're willing to transfer to PC and play the Odyssey looking version, with far inferior looking planet tech, the game might as well be dead, and that's such a shame. But that was about a year ago. How have things changed now? Well, if you paid attention to Frontier as a company, you might have noticed... Now, I'm not a financier. But at the time of Odyssey release, the share value of Frontier was on a great, genuine rise. Much like it was with Horizon's release and later the Planet Coaster release. With F1 management game in the wings, it was gearing up to be very good time for Frontier. And then Odyssey flopped very hard and got reflected in stocks. Now, I might be conflating these two events because, well, hey, pandemic also started around that time. Still, the last big hope was the F1 management game, but that, after releasing to critically mediocre reviews, and the most baffling announcement made just 2 months after, saying that Frontier will stop the support for the game. Again, all that got reflected in downturn in stock price. I mean, Jesus Christ, ending support after 2 months? What are you thinking? Oh no, wait, like the regurgitated sports game garbage, this was supposed to be a yearly release. Or is it? Well, looking at the stock drop, I sense that F1 might have not liked the handling of Frontier's own IPs either. So that leads us to about today, and after apparent economic wibbly-wobbly British bullshit, the whole company got devalued hard, about 40%. Sure, it could be, as some pundits say, economic stuff in Britland, but I'm more inclined to think that this massive drop was related to the lackluster and downright baffling, if not bizarre, handling of every IP that Frontier has. Elite Odyssey, massive fuck up. Jurassic World 2, sales underperforming. F1 management, support ended after 2 months. What the fuck? Lemnis Gate, just recently killed. And rest of the published games, mediocre at best. Well, years before all of this, company was in a great upswing, so you can see how people have lost hope in the company. But hey, I might just be a wacky horse-faced Latvian who knows nothing. And speaking of game dev, recently Frontier's publishing side, who took up under its wing a few games to publish, announced that Lemnis Gate, a unique FPS shooter, the second game they published in fact, is not just closing down but outright being killed. See, the game relies on servers to be playable, and Frontier, along with the Ratloop Games who developed this game, are closing the servers, making the game unplayable after 11th June 2023. Now, at the time of writing, I'm investigating the story, but the developers who relegate their PR to Frontier to handle have not announced any kind of SDK mods or patches to allow the game to be functioning after the closing date, literally and deliberately killing the game. And let's not forget, Elite Dangerous is in the very same boat. Just that it has more players, and apparently an end-of-life plan promised from the days of Kickstarter. Or is it? So then, according to this end-of-life promise from days of old, Mr. Braben and his company stated in Elite Dangerous newsletter number 50 this. Could the server code be publicly released someday when the servers are shut down? Yes, this is something we would do if for whatever reason we cannot keep the game going. Now, seeing Lemnis Gate being killed outright, F1 being, well, whatever the fuck it is, I'm starting to question whether or not Frontier will ever uphold their word when it comes to officially killing the servers for Elite. Now, let's be frank, it's also a lucrative IP and tech. Plus, this is a promise, not a hint nor some kind of insinuation, but a full-on promise that was made back when offline was also still promised too. So, despite all of this, I can't but to expect these Brits to weasel out of this and kill Elite just like they didn't help Lemnis Gate not to get killed. Or wait, as publishers, did they order the death of Lemnis Gate? Well, I'm still investigating. For now though, that's too grim to think about, right? And like most fanboy space dads will say, what the fuck are you talking about, you idiot? The game is still playable and fun. How could you say that it's dead or dying, you idiot? Thargoid's story is really cool. And those are updates too. Even some other improvements got released alongside, you stupid fuck. And yes, that's true. Thargoid stuff brought a notable interest back into the game after the launch. It genuinely was a small spark of positive, well done work. But that's only if you care about the Thargoids. But as for the other thing, improvements, well, I recently investigated Odyssey performance objectively. Yes, the improvements have been made, but after 2 years, Odyssey still cannot perform to what Frontier themselves advertised the DLC to run with. And I'm not nitpicking like small 1 to 2 FPS differences between averages or something. No! Odyssey still underperforms by about 10 to 20% below minimum. Not the norm, but minimum. And it doesn't matter what kind of hardware you have. Fact of the matter is, the code still runs below expected performance. And at this point, it's only fair to say that these fucking cunts have lied to the public. And there are no two ways about it. And for full story, do check out my video where I tested and investigated all of this to learn more. And speaking of unfulfilled promises and features, remember that Odyssey and Horizon's graphics merging chart? Yes, that one. Well, they made another version of Horizons with graphics from Odyssey, but after 2 years, neither Legacy, Horizons, or Odyssey can play together like they promised and planned. All 3 versions only share the BGS, while Horizons and Odyssey only share the common save. No instancing together, even in space, basically what Horizons and the base game was able to do back in 2015. Is this incompetence again? Or did they just drop this as well and simply didn't tell us? Cause I sure as fuck haven't heard anything since. But, returning to the Thargoid War, the credit has to be given to the handful of leftover developers maintaining the game for doing this Thargoid War. It's had a lot larger positive impact on the whole game than a lot larger dev team could not do in years past. And that's a testament to how good ideas can flourish here. And if nothing else, at least this shows that someone in the company still cares. However, looking at the Steam charts, picture is clearer than ever, especially now that we don't have to account for console players. As good as the Thargoid War has been, without meaningful follow-up, the players only spiked for a month, and now we're still falling. Even best of attempts without proper follow-through is pointless, and here we see the sad reality of Elite Dangerous development team. It loves to stagnate, even when doing something good. So then, let's talk about that stagnation. It's the main downfall for Elite Dangerous, because developers at the helm didn't think the base game needed readjusting and re-examining from time to time. This mentality of everything's fine has led the whole game to become stale and predictable. This is the same mentality most people get as they get older. Everything new is too hard to learn and rocking the boat is too unpleasant, so just sit there doing the same thing over and over. I mean, I would know, I love beating a dead horse. But for live service games to never update or never improve the balance, base values, features and quality of life, especially with the new shit that gets piled on, well, that's lethal. So then, it's no surprise when the game is driven only by the money they're making, game sales and microtransactions. Did you notice how much worthless garbage did Frontier pump out the store full of since the launch of Odyssey? Seriously, go look at all the trash with increasingly higher prices that get pumped out so that the suckers part with their money. Even on the launch of Odyssey, the store was flooded with this shit. And so with that in mind, there's no surprise when developers are incentivized not to fix the game, not to adjust the gameplay properly, but to pump out features that are turning heads. New shit, new stuff. Tell me, how many of you watching right now would wholeheartedly agree with this statement? I'd play Elite if they would only release some new ships. So then there is no wonder when instead of making quality of life updates, developers pump out multi-crew, fleet carriers, fucking squadrons and immediately abandon these features, never to properly readjust or fix them. Just drop another feature, grab that space dad attention and move on to the next one. No one will surely investigate them or remember if they're bad, right? Well, I will. No substance, just more shit. And that's the thing. As long as it grabs attention, it doesn't matter what kind of quality it is, right? Even the new Thargoid stuff basically is a distraction from the main game, which is just as broken and just as unbalanced. And this is the stagnation I refer to. If you just go a little bit out of your comfort zone and look at, say, PUBG, Destiny 2, fucking Fortnite, and so on, you'll see basically a re-examination of their core principles along with attention-grabbing updates. And that's kind of the difference between an incompetent development team and a decent one. In the end, Elite Dangerous is just as playable as before, and the good aspects are still there, just with more crap piled onto it. But that's kind of the thing with the good aspects, they remain good for just so long, until they become stale and boring. So, what follows after that? Well, I think you know.